Hello, church. I'll be going over chapter 15 of the Lordship of Christ. And this chapter is about the Lordship of Christ in education. And as a church, what we've been saying over and over again, and our Pastor Martin has been saying to us, is the saying, all of Christ in all of life, which means we want to bring Christ to every area of our lives. And this means also education, right? So Christ must have lordship over education as well. This chapter was pretty short, so I just wanted to share just a few quotes and kind of expand upon it a little bit. So the first one is, all education should have the glory of God as its goal, the commandments of Christ as its norms, and the love of Christ as its fundamental motive. End quote. And if you look at our education system today, we see clearly that no, Christ is not Lord over education. And instead, something else is Lord over education, which is man. So if we were to flip this quote around for the secular world, for our current education system, it might say something like this: all education is about the glory of man, the commandments of man, and the love of self as its fundamental motive. Now that kind of better describes our current education system. And going back to Romans 1, we know that we're going to worship something. So if we are not worshiping Christ, it'll be man. And that is why our education system, since it's done away with Christ and does not want anything to do with Christ, man is king. Man is the Lord over our education, right? That's why when we are taught subjects like science, for example, we see that God doesn't exist. We're actually just an accident made billions and billions of years ago, and with no real value, no real meaning to life, right? All of this is eventually just going to go away. So in the end, what we are just ugly bags of mostly water, right? With no real value. And that's why we hear things like, do what makes you happy. Do you. If that's what makes you happy, then go for it, because at the end, all of this is going to go away. You won't even be remembered, right? We're just a tiny little ball of dirt and all these billions of other planets and galaxies roaming around the entire universe. So we really are insignificant, right? So that's why it's all about loving yourself, right? Especially now in our day and age. It's all about loving who you are and accepting who you are just the way you are, right? But we know that we're actually made in the image of God, so we have true value. He's the one that sets the value for us, right? And He is the one who made us who we are. So if we try to live anything outside of how He has made us, then we are telling God, we're actually unhappy with how You made us, right? And of course, this kind of thinking comes from our sinful and wicked hearts. And Jeremiah 17:9 tells us that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately, desperately wicked. Who can understand it? And that is why, because we have this wicked heart, the Lord calls us to be born again, to get rid of that wicked heart, and to be a new creation. The other quote I wanted to share says, what is taught in schools, how it is taught, and for what purpose it is taught, all have a profound influence on the next generation. And how, end quote. And how true is that, right? This comes back to that saying we say in our church, all of Christ, all of life. So if Christ is not Lord over education, then we will see and currently see a generation that does not seek the glory of Christ, the glory of God. Instead, it seeks its own glory, seeks to love itself, does not seek to love God, instead hates God, and will live by its own rules, right? And not God's rules. So yes, the Lordship of Christ in all of life does truly matter. including education. So, Christian, take that to heart and understand how that affects not only today, but also our future. Thank you for listening.